I would say the closest thing I saw to myself was on In Living Color. And so my goal is I want to be in a film or a TV show or something where I get to portray what I call a queer black man authentically, and not necessarily as a joke. I'm not making fun of the character because that's who I am.
All right, this is Chris from Brothers 2 Podcast, where we interview the innovative, the daring, and the bold for informative topics for the Black LGBT. Now, I came across this particular information, I would say, pertaining to a thriller, and I've never heard of an LGBT thriller. And I do have the creator on this particular project, Mr. Aaron Johnson Levy. How you doing, Aaron?
Great. How are you?
Just fine, just fine. And you're going to explain to us, this is called Out, the Saga.
Out, a Saga. It was going to be just like Out web series, or but we've heard that so many times. One of the actors actually recommended the word Saga because I don't know if you remember maybe a few months ago, there was this thing in the news about people promoting the word Saga as a replacement for LGBT.
Really? I didn't hear that. But
yeah.
This is something new. All right.
It stood for sexual and gender acceptance. That's what it stands for. But it kind of got shot down. Everyone protested, and then they got rid of that. So,
people like the abbreviations what they got. So I can see that. All right. So now this is the reason why this is actually a little interesting to me, because I've never seen a crime thriller, an LGBT crime thriller at that. Could you explain how this project came about?
Well, it came about because when I became an actor, a screen actor, I've been stage acting my whole life. I kind of did it with the purpose of representing for people like me. So when I grew up, I never got to see anyone that was similar to me on screen. I would say the closest thing I saw to myself was on In Living Color, which I'm sure you know the skit I'm referring to.
Of course.
And so I said, my goal is I want to be in a film or a TV show or something where I get to portray what I call a queer black man authentically, and not necessarily as a joke. I'm not making fun of the character because that's who I am.
Okay.
And I had the opportunity to do that in a film called Hey, Mr. Postman, which releases in June of this year.
Okay.
And after I filmed that last September, I said, okay, now where do I go from here? I've reached the goal that I set for myself. So I said, well, maybe I need to create something. And when I create something, I want to give other people that same opportunity to portray themselves, portray people like them, and portray it authentically. And that's kind of where it came from. I said, what are all the people in my life, the characters that I've met in my life that I've never seen on screen? Let me write something that incorporates these characters and have them do things that they could do in real life that we just don't get to see queer or gay people doing.
Okay.
Such as fighting crime or dealing with crime and things like that.
That you're actually right. I've never seen an LGBTQ character of any sort in a thriller, and that basically is one of the type of things that I think creativity in terms of bringing things like this to a completely different area that people are not quite used to is actually one of the best things I love about interviewing directors, actors, etc. Because for those who actually are trying to try something different, it could be a little bit shocker for the community. It could be a bit of a shocker, but it's something that we've never seen, and so and then it begins to open doors for other things. Who are particularly the people that maybe you came up to start to work with this particular project?
Well, these are people that a lot of them are people that I know from my life, and they were the inspiration for the script. Now, once the script was written, then I had to start looking for actors, because some of the inspirations are actually performers. So I wanted them to play their characters. For other people, I had to, identify local actors who I thought would do a good job in the role.
Why a thriller?
Well, it comes from real life, and there's been an issue for a long time of violence against queer people, particularly queer people of color, and it's something that I've seen people just really don't want to talk about.
Okay.
And I said, okay, well, I have this opportunity to say something. And you never know what the future will hold. I never know if this is my first and last project or if it's one of many. I don't know, what the future holds. So I said, if I have one chance to say something to the world, what am I going to say? And this is the issue that I wanted to address.
How long have you been acting?
I've been acting my whole life. I remember in first grade, I was in Tom Sawyer as Tom Sawyer and had to paint a fence up and down. And the teachers raved about my painting.
You had that artistic stroke. What can you say?
They loved it. They filled my head with all kinds of hope. So I got in every production I could, for the rest of my life until I decided I wanted to do it professionally.
Okay. Well, that's good. Well, can you name some of the films that people will be able to see you with? I know you just recently named one. Any other projects that people will be able to recognize you?
I don't know about recognize me, but I was, my other things that I've been in recently was a music video for an artist called Karen Sita. Okay. And she's the latest addition to the Capitol Records family. And she's from the Philippines, lives in Los Angeles, but she's she's definitely, I think, going to blow up here also. I think it's up to like 8 million hits or something for the video.
Wow. Okay.
So I was in that, and I was just corresponding with them about using the song in the web series. So that's something kind of breaking news.
Nice.
And I was in a short film. I don't think, anyone's going to recognize me from it, but yeah, so I think the thing that people will recognize me or associate me with will be Hey, Mr. Postman.
Okay.
And that has Omar Gooding, Paula Jai Parker, Rodney Perry, Anthony A.J. Johnson from Movie Friday, Liana Mendoza, just a whole slew of veteran actors, and a lot of local talent as well.
Okay.
So that's something definitely to look out for.
Now, I've noticed that a lot of, especially for African American creative, whether you're straight or gay, a lot of people are going to do web series. They're going to web series as the way to kind of get their work out for people to be able to see that. Was that always the initial thought of the whole process of this particular project?
No, actually, I wanted to do a movie. I wanted to do a screenplay, and when I finished the first draft of it, it was, I don't know, around 80 pages. But I was like, I could have extended it, added some plot twists and storylines here or there to just fluff it up a little bit more. But when my readers read it, they said, this feels like a TV show. And I was like, oh, does it? I'd never thought about that.
Oh, wow.
And, knowing the industry and knowing that the content of what we're doing here is not mainstream. So I knew that I could break it up into a TV show script and send it to networks and send it to, the mainstream channels, and I would just be spinning my wheels.
Okay. And
realistically, there's a lot of drag queens, and drag queens of color. This is just not, it's not the content that you find, on the big channels. So that's why my only option then became web series.
Gotcha. Well, just to explain with the audience about the film a little bit more, basically this follows an aspiring drag performer who becomes a target in a crime spree that tears the community apart. Is that correct?
Yeah. And we've added a little bit of backstory to the performer, potentially going to make him return from Israel. And this is kind of to add a little bit of humor just to the log line, which is this performer who used to perform in Israel returns to the U.S. because of an outbreak of terrorism, and to come home to the U.S. to find safety. The irony is he ends up becoming a target of domestic terrorism.
Oh wow!
This is the new terrorism that we're seeing here in America.
Yes.
And so that's basically what it is. People don't like to use that term when we're talking about what's happening in America, but that's exactly what it is.
Gotcha. Well, for me personally, at any time that I think people really get pulled in is when you do talk about something that actually is relatable. So a lot of people actually get pulled into a lot of shows, and that's why really a lot of shows address some of the current things that are going on in today's world. So it makes total sense to me. But like I said, when I read that initial, the drag queen, I was like, wait a minute, what? I've never seen again. This is something I've never seen before, and I think a lot of people will get a lot of shock out of that. But when you think about it, you're right. A lot of things that people don't want to talk about, in particular, I believe there's a lot of transgender deaths occurring, particularly minority transgender deaths occurring in a lot of places. Louisiana is definitely one of them, and a few other places now. So it's just now really catching more
all
attention.
over the country.
Yes, absolutely. And it's just now catching attention. So you actually touched on something very good, I think. I think you touched on something very good.
I don't know if I should give away too much of the plot, but
okay, all right, then don't do it. I just, I want to make sure people are definitely looking. Now, the biggest part about this is that you are also seeking funding to people to be able to support that. Is this correct?
Yes. So we're at about 53% of the budget. We've extended it to 4 more weeks of the campaign, and this is kind of the beginning. I'm just beginning now to get wider exposure. So, I just started to get, as of yesterday, my first contributions from people that don't even know me.
Okay.
So they've come across it. We're featured now on the Indiegogo website.
Okay.
I did a podcast yesterday, so I don't know exactly, how they're finding out about the project, but it's starting to spread. I have donors from 3 countries.
This is really good. This is a good thing. People begin to, and which is actually a really good thing when it comes to any small project or any big project. People who believe in it, they put their money towards it. Who is Perdell Richardson, just for people to know?
Yeah, Perdell, he's a director that I worked with on a different project. It was actually a different web series project. And, I loved the way that it came out. And so I contacted him and said, hey, are you available to work on this new web series project? And he said, yeah. So that's how I teamed up with him.
And this, he's actually directed and produced other films such as Fatal Reaction and also The Scam, just in case for people who could be able to find that on Amazon.com, correct?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yes.
All right. Well, it definitely sounds to me, like I said, something that I've never seen before. And to actually, when do you expect for this particular film to come online so people could be able to see it? When do you expect everything to be completely accomplished?
Well, the first step was going to be to put out the pilot and then use that to secure funding for the rest of it. But the subject matter is, I think, so important. I think instead of just trying to get people to see it at home, I think it may be better to put it into film festivals with people who are in this industry professionally so that they can see it and discuss it and write about it and, let's kind of start the ball rolling from that angle as opposed to let's get it out on the internet and whoever wants to see it can see it. And I want people to talk about it. So I'm thinking film festivals will start there and then make it widely available.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute. When it comes to the route of web series, putting it out there for people to be able to see it, or either hooking up with certain channels, people who are maybe certain stations have already an audience built in, versus going to film festivals. Why do you think it's actually better to go the film festival route? Is it more for the publicity, or is it more to do what? What are you looking to do with that?
So something like, let's say, Slay TV, is that what you're thinking of?
That's one of them. That's one, but there's also a few of them. And so I'm thinking to myself, well, wait a minute now. If there's already a built-in audience, why not necessarily hook up with them?
Right. Well, I think that is a possibility, but we are also still looking for the funding to shoot the rest of season 1.
Right.
So it's kind of like 2 birds in one stone by going the film festival route. Particularly the one that I was aiming for was Burbank. I don't know if we're going to hit it because of the deadline. We just have to push everything back.
Okay.
So we're now aiming for Outfest.
Gotcha.
And Outfest Fusion is actually focused on queer content of people of color. And It's the only festival in the country that has that as a focus. So I feel like putting it there, you're going to be it's actually in LA. There will be filmmakers there, potential investors, anyone who people that are in the industry, not people who are just looking for entertainment. So I feel like this series it's entertaining. It's actually kind of a dark comedy.
Okay.
Very funny. But it's a real serious issue. And I call it's a rose-tinted look at a not-so-rosy situation. So I really want people to dig into it.
I just recently had Lamont Pierre on the show. And when it comes down to the audience, in terms of what he was basically saying, in his words, he thought that the black LGBT, does not care about art. Mm-hmm. And it kind of shocked me when I heard that come directly from him. And it was something that really, really hurt me a little bit. But part of me says, well, is there a point to what he definitely says? And in regards to there has to be a sex scene in almost every other clip when it comes to certain films, particularly for the black LGBT. Do you agree with that?
That when it comes to black LGBT, there's not an interest in art?
Yes. And, because, for instance, Signal TV 23, they do a lot of sex within their shows. Now, some people don't necessarily think anything wrong with it, but at the same time, some people do. What exactly are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I just feel like in general, and not just with black people, but when it comes to stories about gay people, they tend to be sex-centered.
Yeah.
And that is one of the things, in our press release, we talk about how we are seeking to diversify the representation of LGBT people on screen. And that's very much a part of what we're talking about. This isn't about sex. We're not even dealing with, boyfriend couple situations. This is about life and death. I have a friend who says it's about survival under extreme circumstances. And it just so happens that these characters, in fact, most of the characters are LGBTQ, and the whole range of them. We have lesbian characters, bi characters, trans characters. We have actors who are trans, lesbian, gay. We have the whole shebang, and they're all portraying truthful characters.
Gotcha.
Doing things that we could be doing in real life. And so some people are doing them. We just don't get to see it.
Gotcha. So basically, your thoughts are which it is. It's important to add diversity, and I think that actually again begins to mentally open up people when it comes to the art, especially for dealing with LGBTQ, and not just black, but just LGBTQ in general. I think the white has definitely addressed it a little bit differently. When you think of serious, maybe not a bad example, but maybe Will and Grace or a few other things. I think there's a show on FX where it's majority transgender happened to be on the network on the show. So we're beginning to see different things, and I think it definitely is a perfect time to give a completely different view on LGBTQ film, TV series, web series, etc.
I can speak from my upbringing, and this is one of the things that drives me is being a role model, being a face, a figure that people can look to and see themselves in as an artist. I was actually earlier today driving and thinking, who do I represent? I've been in LA saying I want to represent the queer black man. But I do a live stream on an app called YouNow, and my audience on that, they're not all queer black people.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, what is it that I have in common with the audience who is interested in what I'm doing? And I realized that it's art. I attract artists of all different ethnicities. And I come from an environment, and many black people relate to this, come from an environment, a black home, a black community that has very little understanding or appreciation of art. So if that's what this person that you referenced was saying, I 100% agree with that. And so I've spent much of my life being told, tone it down, don't act like that, don't do that, don't play with those things, don't do this. A lot of don'ts throughout my life, and that hasn't even stopped.
You're right. It has not stopped. You are absolutely right. No,
so,
you're right.
Yeah, I want to tell people to do it. Do it. If you have the gift of creativity, go after it, use it, because it is a gift. Just because you're different and you act different from other people does not mean there's something wrong with you.
Right. Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely right. Now, say this project becomes super duper successful. So everything, and you get the recognition. What's the next thing? You want to continue to do film, or you want to do TV, movies? What's the next step for you?
Well, we got a whole season to focus on. If this, ideally, if this blows up and gives me the opportunity to keep creating, because I'm an artist, and that's what I'm going to do, with or without money, with or without accolades or success. That's the thing that I had to learn recently, which is that success is not a figure. It's about something that you decide for yourself, and it has to do with why you're in it in the first place.
Right. If
you're in something just for money, then you will only be successful if you get a whole lot of money. And I had to decide that I'm not doing this for money or success. I'm doing it to represent and to communicate a message to the world on behalf of a community and the community of people around me, of queer people who don't often get to speak, to a global audience. People in the city of Cleveland, urban, inner city, drag queens who there's a long legacy of what we've contributed to the world of art. Look at, the Madonna thing, the voguing, all of that.
Yeah.
Disco music, the list goes on of the contributions of queer Black people to pop culture. And I want to give this community more recognition and more opportunities to represent themselves, and not just, give something artistically and have someone rip it off and make money from it. And we're sitting back here, twerking for $1 bill.
Exactly. You're right about that. I mean, this is an interesting question too. When it comes down to knowing the fact of what we actually truly contributed to the Hollywood, to just the creativity in itself, do you really think a lot of, particularly Black LGBT creators, get their just due? Are they well recognized, or are they kind of underappreciated and not necessarily recognized enough?
I just don't see anyone. Lena Waithe was on The View. I think
I saw that.
I think didn't you post?
Sure did.
You saw that.
I did post it.
You did. I saw that. And she said you can count us on one hand the representatives of queer people of color in Hollywood, and that is just the sad truth. It's a shame, because there's so many of us that have such potential with so much creativity, and it just doesn't get utilized. And it's a national tragedy, I think, that we're not appreciating what the resources that we have here.
That's true. Definitely. It really, well, you're right, because she made a good point in pointing out Titus, Wanda, her, and a few. It's like, yeah, Rue. You're right. Rue, and it's definitely, it's paid them off very well. But now, when you look at their audience is very diverse in terms of what it is that they're really the type of people that really love what they do and love what they create. It's a very diverse audience. So definitely it's something that a lot of people or anybody can be able to enjoy, regardless of whether you're Black, gay, or white, gay, or just straight. Creativity is creativity is creativity.
Exactly.
And that's it. So, one thing for sure, when it comes to seeing a thriller, I definitely want to see this, because now I'm a little bit more interested to find out, is there any twists and turns in this?
Oh my goodness. I mean, I almost want to tell you that the first turn happens right at the beginning, and that's kind of what drives the story. And it is the protagonist, the gay Black guy, kind of reuniting with his best friend, after returning from Israel, and they're so excited, he's so excited to see him. But what he doesn't know is his best friend has been lured in to this, I guess, movement. I'm just going to say it.
Oh, wow. That does sound interesting, actually. That does sound interesting. Okay. I don't want you to give everything away. But definitely, it does sound like something I know I'd definitely say. But why a film festival? Man, now I got to go to fly out to LA or something like that. At least give a sneak preview or something like that so people can be able to see something about it.
Well, you can contribute if you become a backer on Indiegogo.
All right.
What happens is when we complete the pilot, so I can show the backers of the film the finished product, and what I want to do is have them vote. Once they see it, on two different outcomes that, so there's a cliffhanger at the end of episode 1. I want the backers to be able to vote on what happens next at the beginning of episode 2. And whatever gets the most votes, that's what we'll film.
Now that's definitely interesting. So basically they get to pick and choose what they would like to see at the end. That's interesting. That's actually interesting. Mm-hmm. That's something that's been done before or no?
I've never seen it, no.
Wow, okay, all right. So definitely those who contribute, please make sure you choose right. and choose right, Now, and just to make sure that you go to Indiegogo, where exactly do you need to go to navigate to find out where to contribute to this project?
Well, there are a couple places. The main place, you can go to my website, aaronjohnsonlevy.com. Aaron, AARONJOHNSONLEVY.com. Or, if you don't remember that, you can go to, this was much easier to remember, my Instagram, Twitter, all of that is at Celebrity Aaron. And then on my Instagram, you'll see a link to my website, and you'll see the cast, pictures of all the cast members that have been announced. We have a few more cast members that are going to be announced. One of them is actually in Hey Mr. Postman. He's a stand-up comic named Chris Harvey. Very, very funny guy. So, yeah, that's the main place. Website or even Instagram at Celebrity Aaron.
All right. There you have it. Honestly, I really appreciate you coming on the show, Aaron, to talk a little bit about that. And also a couple of things I threw at you, but that's what makes a conversation, right? But I definitely want to make sure I'm going to make sure all your information is posted on the website, on the podcast, as well as also directly underneath. So anybody who clicks it, they know exactly who you are, and also whatever information that it is to kind of make people know about giving some money to this project. We got to see more diversity in LGBTQ type films. So I would love to also give a contribution myself. So you'll definitely see that. So again, thank you, Aaron, for coming on the show. And if there's anything else you want to tell the audience before we leave?
I just want to say thank you for having me on. This is a great time. I think we're doing great things. We're representing for our community and being leaders and role models for the next generation. They need it. So I salute you and anyone listening who's standing up and representing and helping someone else progress in their life. We're doing the best things we could.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. This is Chris with Brother Speed Podcast signing off. Have a wonderful day.